Hi, welcome to Relish Books. Today I'm talking about Harry Potter Year 3, The Prisoner of Azkaban. On my second read through of Harry Potter, my first read through, I was pretty young and I don't remember like all my first impressions well enough to really comment on them. But on my second read through, I thought that The Prisoner of Azkaban was my favorite out of the whole series. This read through, I am not feeling that quite as strongly. I feel like I just like the first one so much, just the beginning and the introduction to that world. But it still is one of my favorites. I think it's arguably the most unique. I think it's the most different as far as the plot formula that she uses, and just perfectly placed in the series as well for there to be kind of this different one after your introduction into the world, and then kind of following that same pattern with book 2. And then book 3, we have kind of a different thing happening. In books 1, 2, 4, 5, and 7, they all follow kind of the same pattern of leading up to the final moment where there's like a confrontation with Voldemort, who's the big bad guy of the whole series. Obviously, they deal with like smaller everyday villains throughout each book, but all of those other ones have the final confrontation being Voldemort. And book 6 and book 3 are the different ones as far as that goes, but book 6 just feels very Voldemort is still the focus. And with book 3, really, like, Voldemort's obviously still important. He's still the big bad guy, but he's really pushed into the background as the book focuses on Sirius Black as the big villain and the very present threat. And obviously with the twist at the end, which makes it even more different. So I really, really enjoy it. And so it's different in that way. And it also still has the more lighthearted, fun-loving feel that I feel belong really to the first 3 books. So yeah, I think it is one of the best, possibly my second favorite in the series. I'm not sure, but that's kind of where I'd put it right now. So, Prisoner of Azkaban has a number of factors that make it really fun, and a lot of great characters. You get introduced to some new characters that are going to be really important throughout the rest of the series. And the way that she achieves, again, the twist at the end, the Wormtail and Sirius plot line is done so well. You know, it doesn't feel at all unrealistic. All the groundwork has been laid for it, even though you didn't know who Sirius was in the last 2 books. It feels totally real at the end because she was laying the groundwork with introducing like Scabbers in book 1 and totally innocently, seemingly, putting in his history so that it all works when everything's revealed at the end of book 3, which is really fun. So Professor Lupin gets introduced in this book, one of the characters that's going to be very prevalent throughout the rest of the series. And I like his character by far the best in this book. He's really good. I don't love him as much in any of the following ones. I feel like he really shines in this book, and then she fails to really develop him a lot more throughout the rest of the books. But I don't know. I think most of his development that happens beyond this book is more in books 6 and 7, which I haven't got to yet on this read through. So maybe I'll feel differently. But yeah, I was always a little disappointed about that, I think, because Lupin's so great in book 3, and then he's not really there as much through the rest of the series. But I also think it's really impressive how Sirius Black is, the villain in everybody's minds throughout the whole book, but pretty much as soon as you realize he's actually a good guy at the end of the book, even though you have so little time with him, he's immediately a very likable character. And I think that that's impressive. Other fun elements of this book, I think the things that stand out are like the night bus. I always really enjoyed that part when I was younger. And Harry gets the Marauders map for the first time. There's a pretty cool pop-up of it in this edition. Let's see if I can. And then these little things like go up and down and they like move. So that's fun and that's important. A couple things that people don't like about this book. The main one being the aspect of time travel. And she sets it all up very well in this particular book. The problem is that if you think about it in the context of the whole story, as soon as you've introduced time travel, you've obviously opened up pretty much endless plot holes, because you could be like, well, literally any problem that they ever have where something goes wrong in their plans, they could go back in time and try to fix it. So I get that people would have an issue with that. It works well in this book, and it's fun, and I like it that it's only in this book rather than in the rest of them, because it just gets too confusing. It really only works once in a while, I feel like, type of thing. But I don't mind it, because, like, yes, it does make plot holes, but I think you just kind of have to look past that and just accept Hermione's explanation that it's very, very limited what people are allowed to do with it. You'd think people would be abusing it all the time, but it's also mentioned like terrible things happen to people who do it, so there's kind of like a healthy fear of it. But I do understand that's a plot hole, but I don't mind it. I can look past that and just enjoy its place in this story. As far as the time travel works in this book, it is pretty consistent. I don't think there are really any plot holes with it within this story. So yeah, I don't really mind it. This book also introduces the Dementors, which are important throughout the rest of the series. They're kind of Harry's big fear. More than Voldemort even. He has this great fear of the Dementors. And then kind of because of that, with Lupin's extra lessons, it really starts to emphasize Harry's strong abilities in defensive magic, which become important later. That's kind of his thing. Apart from flying, there are also good Quidditch scenes in this book for people who like that. Some of the later books, it's kind of a bummer how much that gets cut out. So all the scenes of that in this one are fun. And finally, I like how she balances out the characters and their roles. In book 1, Harry, Ron, and Hermione all figured out the final tests, so to speak, together. In book 2, Hermione was petrified, so it was just Harry and Ron who went to the final battle, and then ultimately Harry always does the final part alone. And then in book 3, Ron is in the hospital wing, and Harry and Hermione go alone to the final climax. So I like that. I like that balance that she does and makes it feel natural. Again, one of the great things about the relationships in this book is that ultimately Ron is Harry's best friend, but she does a really great job with making this this three-way friendship feel really equal. A large chunk of this book, though, actually, Harry and Ron are both not speaking to Hermione, which is also kind of different because Ron and Hermione fight all the time and very frequently are not speaking to each other. But I think this is the only time in the books where Harry and Hermione go on a long stretch of being on no speaking terms because Hermione got Harry's broom taken away. And that stretches on. I forgot how long it actually goes. Like, it's weeks and weeks of the three of them not speaking to each other. So that's a little bit of a bummer. But ultimately, yeah, I like that, how it's Harry and Hermione in the climax in this one. So yeah, those are some of my favorite things about Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. One of my favorites. Yeah, I really love the first three. I feel like I've been saying that in all 3 of these videos how much I like each one of these, but the first 3 really are have a different feel than the rest, and I think they're my favorites. Just that magical feeling, and that kind of shifts in the 4th book as things get more serious, the kids get older, Voldemort rises again, and the world is kind of like going to war and all that. Things get a lot more serious. There's a lot less of these just fun-loving, lighthearted scenes that she elaborates just for the sake of character building, just for you to get to love the world and the people. So yeah, that is why I love the first 3 so much. But anyway, those are a few thoughts on Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.